that plaque that you have. So anything to prove, anything that somebody can read. So if somebody say, let's say you have a bachelor's degree now, you can't just use word of mouth to tell me that. You have to bring the certificate to show me, or your transcript to show me that you actually studied in that school. So I've given you an example of membership, of awards. So let's say judging the work of others. If somebody has called you before to come review their book, they probably wrote you an email, right? They probably, sent you a thank you letter after you were done. Or if somebody called you to speak at their event, they probably, give you a thank you letter. Things like that are able to prove or show that you can't just use word of mouth to say, I was at Lagos Startup Week to talk about real estate investment. You need to show proof, maybe pictures. Pictures are not enough. Letters are the best proof for most of these things. Either backdated, not backdated, either from that time, because backdated means you're writing it now but putting the dates in the past. But let's say you got the letter that time, or you can get the letter in present day, but referring to that time. So let's say letter bears the 21st of October, but it's talking about what happened January of this year. That's also very acceptable in the body of the letter. So those are examples. Let's say you've written a book. We need a copy of the book, just not just word of mouth that I've written a book. So these are examples of ways to prove or show that you have done these things that will qualify you for the visa.
Thank you so much, sir. So while you were mentioning about the degree, the BSc certificate, so I was like being the voice of the people, right? Is there any any results, maybe from first class, second class? Is there any limitation as to the kind of results that you need to submit? If you're not a first class, maybe you're not a second class, or if you're a third class, you're not qualified for this category. Is there anything like
Well,
that?
if you remember clearly, I didn't mention anything about your certificate. It's a plus, but it's not one of the requirements, right? I started from original contribution. I moved on to awards. I moved on to membership. I'm nowhere in the O1 or EB1 criteria is the bachelor's degree. But if you have it, you can present it, right? But there are people, let's say you're successful. I'm sure most of our entertainers in Nigeria, for instance, don't have a bachelor. Not most, though. I take that back. Some don't have a bachelor's degree, but they will still qualify strongly for these visas. So it has nothing to do with your education. So let's say you finish with a third class, you can still submit it. As long as you meet those 8 requirements. Let's say you don't have at all, you can still qualify. The ones that will be dicey to venture into are the visa types that specifically, like the EB2NIW that specifically says this is for people with advanced degree. That is the one that will be almost a crime for you to apply for if you don't have these degrees, right? So, but the O1 or EB1 does not have any educational requirements.
All right, thank you very much. The next question sort of feel like you've answered already, but you didn't go into detail. So it's asking about the industries or professions that are most commonly successful in obtaining this particular visa and why. I think what I'm trying to say is how successful is this type of visa? Like, is there a chance of like maybe 50-50 or is it 90-80 or so?
Well, so this is it. Depending on the kind of professionals or lawyers or company that you work with, is way, way, way above a 50-50 kind of conversation because there is really no middle point. It's either you're qualified or you're not. You get my point? So, for instance, let's say, so I didn't mention that out of these 8, you don't have to have all 8. You only need 3. Out of these 8 visa requirements, you only need 3. But we also don't let people just submit 3. So we like to let people be very well qualified for it, right? We maybe 4 or 5, so that you will not be sitting on the fence. It's also a very subjective analysis. It depends on the feeling of the USCIS officer reviewing your case. So if, for instance, I have an officer who is, let's say when we're in school, there are some professors that are very difficult to satisfy or impress. There are some that as long as you just write the basics, they will give you a pass mark. So it's the same thing with these officers. There are some officers that maybe they've been there for 40 years, they've seen it all. So you have to really come correct when you're coming to them. There's some officers that are new and they are friendly and they are not going through maybe family problems, for instance, right? Those ones will easily appreciate your work or profile. But it's either you're qualified or you're not. So where the professional or the lawyer comes in is when you do the first consultation call, we tell you to introduce yourself, check your CV, and let's say out of this 8, you only qualify for 1, but you have the money to pay for it. It will be unfair to make you pay for that visa because you don't qualify for it. Or saying that you should pay for the EB2NIW when you only have a secondary school certificate. It's just like just wanting to steal your money, right? So my point is the chances are very high once you are deemed qualified for the process. But the chances are not 100%. Anybody that tells you that is trying to get your money. Because at the end of the day, we know it's almost an incorruptible system in the United States. You can't influence. You have to still wait for the decision of the government on any visa you submit. So the officer has a very wide discretion. In fact, there are times that we have been so confident that we could even take a bet. Somebody maybe you grew up watching on TV, now is your client, you're trying to present them to the US, and this officer says, no, there's nothing extraordinary about this person. You can't do anything about it than refile. And with all situations whereby we refile the same thing, and then a more reasonable officer is the one that checks. Just think about your university professors, the ones that were sadists and the ones that were nice and maybe had good mental health. There are some that no matter what you do, it's the same with these people. They are like examiners, like professors. If they are having a bad day, your visa can be denied. And there's really nothing your lawyer can do. So any lawyer that tells you they can do anything beyond presenting the best case, they're lying to you, right? So I tell people, once a company like ours or a lawyer or a law firm deems you qualified for the O1 or EB1, you're already around 80% because they have analyzed your case. If they are being fair with you, you should have an 80% chance already, or even more. Then the other percentage will be around the diligence they use in preparing your case. There are some people that they are more than how they are presented. Let's say you've gotten 10 awards, but you can only find 3. You're already doing yourself a lot of injustice. You understand? Or you've gotten a lot of awards, or you are a member of many organizations, but you can't find the certificate anymore. And you're too lazy to go back to those organizations to give you a letter, right? Those are other things that affect people that are qualified. We find people that are so busy, or people that can't find their qualifications, right? And then the final straw, which is like 5 or 10%, is the stroke of, I would say, maybe luck or blessing that will come from the officer or just coming in contact with an officer that is not having a bad day. I tell people a lot. Officers that are having a bad day just say, you know what, I'm denying every case I see today. That's how it makes sense for us to see. But our chances are very high. We have about a 98% approval rate. Why is that? Number one, we don't just take anybody. In fact, if we did, we would be richer than this because a lot of people have money but don't qualify. So if we wanted to be here for the short run or don't mind online dragging and all of that, we would just be taking money from everybody that can afford it. But if you can afford it, but you don't have the qualification, we'll still disqualify you to say, go and work on this requirement. Okay? So once you qualify, we do our diligent work. We must leave the remaining 5% to the discretion of the officer involved. And then the solution to that, if it doesn't go well, because I found cases that I was really convinced that I know the person and no, there's no way this person will get this approval. And just by chance. So sometimes what we do is just resubmit again and pay the application fee, and they approve the person just because another officer is the one in charge this time around, and maybe they have a happy home or something. I don't know. So my point is, qualification, once you're qualified, you can know that your chances are high of being approved.
Thank you so very much, COO. Honestly, this is like an eye-opener. And there is something I love that you were being consistent about, is the fact that it's not about your money in this case. It's about the requirements that you have that can qualify you for this visa. And this is one thing you should know for everyone listening and for every of our, guests that we have here, to let you know that vesting is not about collecting your money. And like you said, we're here for the longest time. We're not just here for the short time. So if you have the money, if it's something they buy, I mean, everybody will be in the US or in the UK by
Exactly.
now. But it has to be with the fact that your qualification is what set the pace for you. And here at Vesti, we get to sit you down. I think CEO will come to that point where he'll tell you about clarity, or maybe the next guest will be the one to talk about that, where you would understand that you will sit down, we would sit down, we would talk about this thing, and to be very, very sure if this is what you want to do. So please, I hope you all are taking notes. So CEO, please don't go yet. We just have like 2 questions for you. Ufoma, for your question, I'm going to give it to the next guest coming. Also, Sandra Ede, I don't know if I'm correct. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to murder your name. Do you provide legal advice for O1 visa? That's number 1 question. CEO, please, are you here? Mr. Abimbala, please, are you here, sir?
Yes, I'm here. I can hear you.
Okay. All right. So for Joy Essen, I think she's asking for a family. She said for a married couple, if both partners have strong qualifications, how do they apply? That's 1. How do they apply? That's 1. Should they apply independently? That's 2. Or just one partner applies and the other goes as a dependent? Yes, I think that's what she wanted to say. As a dependent. That's a question.
Okay, thank you. I think I can also do justice by taking the questions from the chat box and then following them chronologically.
Okay,
right. So first, Ufoma said she has a master's in logistics and supply chain.
Yeah.
From the UK. And can she proceed? Yes, you can proceed with the EB2 NIW. In fact, that field is such an important field to the US because apart from your master's, you must have a proposed endeavor. That's something you want to come and do in the US that is beneficial to the country. I don't know if Ifoma can hear me. So, and part of the things that the US is kind of interested in right now, among many other things, is this supply chain issue. Because COVID affected, of course, I'm sure you know all over the world, the effect of COVID is still there. There are still shortages of chips. Cars are not manufactured the way they used to be, and so on and so forth, even though it's clearing out. So for people who made forecasts new during COVID that we're still going to be struggling in the next 10 years with a lot of the aftermath. So part of the very important, in fact, gas, oil, gas is petrol. In America, we call it gas. It's still quite scarce and expensive, also due to the Ukraine-Russian war and supply in America. So supply chain is such a huge field and a problem that needs to be solved. So let's say you have this brilliant idea around how we can solve the problem in supply chain, plus your master's in that field, it will be a banger, if you permit me to use that word. It will be very nice. And the help of professionals will also be useful, like us or any other lawyer that you use. We prefer that you use us in helping you to come up with this proposal. It's like a business plan to say, when I come to the US, this is what I would do in the field of supply chain. I'm highly educated in it, blah, blah, blah. Let me not prepare the business plan for you on this call, right? So those are part of the things that we'll do to support you when you decide to move on with us in this part. So supply chain is very strong. Shale says it makes a lot of sense. Thank you. What's the difference between the EB1 and the O1? Even though they have the same requirements, I mentioned earlier that one is an immigrant visa. That's the EB1. By immigrant, I mean it lets you stay permanently in the US. While the other is a non-immigrant visa. That means it's only valid for 3 years. And after that 3 years, you expect to either return home. You can also renew it and extend it, or convert to something else, like the EB1. If you don't want to leave, most people don't want to leave where they come, right? So they convert to something else or renew and so on and so forth. We don't advise anybody to go out of status or remain beyond their stay. But if you're here for 3 years, maybe the first or second year, you should start thinking, what's my next move? Do I want to renew this visa or change it to something else? That's what most people do, right? Or get a job, sponsorship, and so on and so forth. So that's the difference between EB1 and O1. Also, the level of scrutiny that an officer gives when they are considering the two cases, even though they're the same requirement. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're trying to go, you're trying to get admission into, let's say, University of Lagos or OAU, or you're trying to get admission to a polytechnic, but you're writing the same JAMB. I'm sure you know an examiner checking the two results, the two exams will be looking more strongly. Or let's say you're trying to get into medicine, and you're also trying to get into history. With no disrespect to people that studied history, in case anybody studied history here. I'm sure you know the cutoff for medicine will be higher than history. So it's the same thing with EB1. The level of scrutiny that an officer that wants to give you a green card that will make you stay in the US for life would want to be sure you are really extraordinary and you're not a fluke. That somebody who wants to give you a 3-year visa will know that without things being equal, even if he makes a mistake, 3 years is going to come and go very soon, right? So that's another difference. The length of the visa and the level of scrutiny given to the visa. Those are two important differences in this. The processing time differ. Most times it depends on the applicant. The applicants that have their things in one place. Let me give you an example. If you want to give people visa today, say, okay, everybody on this call, US visa for you. I'm sure there are some people that don't know where their passport is right now. Like, is it in Ibadan or Lagos? So people don't even have passport. They will quickly go and renew it. So it's the same. So some people have never gotten their transcript before. If there's an opportunity that they will have to go to maybe OAU or Unilag, and you know how these schools are when it comes to transcripts. Sometimes 6 months you're still on it, apart from people that studied abroad that can get it in a week or less. So the difference in timeline usually comes with the difference in how efficient people are in keeping their records, in gathering their documents together, and so on and so forth. Also, there are people who we need to help get more qualifications. So let's say you have a master's, like this, our supply chain lady, but you've never written a research paper, or you've never been featured in a newspaper, or you've never written a book. We can advise you, even though it's not compulsory. There are some things that are not compulsory, but are nice to have. You understand? If you're going on a date, for instance, there's no rule that says you must use a perfume, but it's nice to smell nice, right? So, but it's not a requirement. Part of the requirement is to have money, whether you're a boy or a girl. So that's like the masters, right? So, but also a nice to have is a perfume. So the perfume in this case will be, maybe you have written a book on supply chain that will establish your authority even more. Maybe you've gotten an award. Maybe you belong to the Supply Chain Management Institute of England. So those are things that we can recommend to you that will cement your qualification, that will make you stand out from every other person that you graduated with in your class, right? So those things take longer. So some people, if you give them 10 awards or 10 books to write or 10 memberships to join, some people will join that same day or the next day. Some people, 2 months, they're still there. You know, I'm busy at work. You understand? So the timelines are different from people to people, okay? So I think that's for Gideon ACN. I hope I answered your question. For Sandra, do you provide legal services for O1? Yes. That's why we're here on this call. That's our bread and butter. We do that. For a married couple, if both partners have strong qualifications, how do they apply? Do they apply independently? So this is a family decision, right? If, let's say, one person was qualified, that one person, if they get the visa, they can bring every other member of the family as dependents.
Nuclear or extended?
Thanks for that question. Did you see my side eye?
Now we have to be clear.
It's only nuclear. It's only nuclear. So you can only bring your wife, and that's a very important question. So people say, can I bring my grandmother? No, you cannot. You cannot even bring your parents. You understand? You can only bring, so it goes to the right and down. That's your spouse and your kids, biological or adopted, right? So only your spouse, legally married spouse, and your kids. So thanks for that important question. So if one of the members of the family, let's say the husband or the wife, is qualified, they can bring the other people. So let's say, you know, power couples, right? People that have, let's say, Jay-Z and Beyonce, they both qualify, right? They're both powerful. then it's a family decision. You have to call a family meeting and decide who should apply, right? You can also seek help from professionals to say, okay, we can't solve this problem in our family. These are our qualifications. Who do you think has a stronger chance? For instance, let's say somebody he studied mechanical engineering and the other person studied law. I would personally recommend the person that studied engineering because that's a STEM course. America, China, all of these countries are big on STEM. Law is very great, but they have millions of brilliant lawyers. Not to say lawyers are not qualified, don't get me wrong. We do the EBT for a lot of lawyers. But there are many problems in engineering, science. You know, these countries are in a competition with each other to be the best in, you know. And so let's say you have this great idea about how to invent or make America the leader in inventing microchips. Microchips is what they use to make all the cars, all the phones, all those things. But it's Taiwan that is leading. America is running, but the problem is that Taiwan has the raw material for it. America does not. So let's say you now have an idea to say, okay, maybe let's buy the whole of Taiwan. Or let's say, you know, whatever the idea is, or there's another raw material that we've not found out. You know, that's preferable to say, okay, you know what, I want to come as a lawyer to come and be defending your criminals or, you know. So my point is, we can also help you analyze who has a stronger qualification for this, who should be the principal applicant. If you now want to increase your chances, and you can also afford it, the two of you can apply. And whoever gets an approval, we end up being, but you spend 2 times the money. So let's say one costs X amount, it will be 2X. That's what you pay. We've done for families like that. There are people who want to increase their chances and they have the money. So one person chose, I think, the EB one, the other person chose the O1. And I think it was only one of them that they approved, right? And then the other person. So there are people that have money like that. They can increase that. Maybe they really want to move out. So you have to actually decide. And if the two of you want to apply, you will treat you as separate clients and individuals, and you pay the same amount without a discount, in fact. So more light on EBT like I said, advanced degree, and you must have a statement of proposed endeavor. That's the business plan or your proposal to the US government, what you are coming to add to the economy of the country. Would the visa
Everyone
cover for
is asking
dependents?
questions. Wow, nice.
Yeah, I love it. Would the visa cover for dependents? Yes, we've said that. All these visas that we're mentioning, let you bring your spouse and children, just those dependents. The good news is, if you don't have the dependents yet, so let's say you come to the US as a single person on O1, and you marry in 1 year, you fall in love, either intentionally or by mistake, you can go back and bring that person abroad, right? So it covers your, let's say you don't give birth in Nigeria. Let's say you're a man and then your wife gives birth in Nigeria. You can file the O1 for the newborn, even though you didn't have that baby when you had the O1. All of those things will work. Also, when the visa is approved, would the government be placing one at a job? How is the state of residence determined, and would one be assisted in settling down? No. They won't assist. They won't assist you to settle down. It's your choice to come, right? Countries like Canada will even tell you to bring money, not to give them, to show them that you have proof of funds. So they don't care that much. But the system is already there. It works. Even though it's not a bed of roses. A lot of people think their problems are solved when they get a visa. You still need to integrate into the system very well. You need to get your own job. They will give you the permit or the green card to apply, but you still have to be qualified for this job. So they won't help you in settling down or anything like that. You understand? You're special, but not that special to them, right? So you have to find your own, and you can live anywhere in the country. That's the good news. Let's say you have family in Maryland or in Georgia or in Texas. You can move. It's not restricted, right? You can move anywhere in the country. But they won't assist you in settling down or anything like that. Ufoma said, I belong to CILT, Chartered Institute of Logistics. You see that? That's a plus to your profile if you wanted to consider the EB2NIW. Somebody said, what's the cost to apply for the O1 with Vesti? And briefly talk about the process. Well, we don't discuss cost on public places like this. Yes, because we also have a customized service. We have the basic. We have a service that some people say, I don't have, and that's the good thing about Vesti. There's some people that come to us and don't have anything. We don't cook up documents for them, but we guide them to, because think about these things. It's just like somebody says, come to meet you and say, I only have primary school certificates, but I want to be a doctor. You can guide them for the next 6 years to be a doctor, right? Just say, okay, go to secondary school, GS1 to GS3, SS1 to SS3. Make sure you join science class, though, and make sure you focus on biology, and then when you want to write JAMB, make sure you get a high score if you want to do. So just the same way you can guide somebody to be a doctor, you can also guide somebody to be and you don't need to write their JAMB for them or give them a fake WAEC result. They can go. So what we do is, for people who say, I want to move to the US with the O1, but I don't have any of this, we recommend a service to them called the Documentation Support Service. And what this means is that we guide you to gather these documents for yourself. So for instance, let's say you need awards, tailored assistance. Thank you for that English. People speak a lot of good English in this company. Thank you. Tailored assistance. So let's say you've never written a book. What does it take to write a book in supply chain? That's what you did in school. So all you have to do is sit down and write a book. It might take you 3 months or 2 months to write it. But after that 3 months, we also guide you on how to publish. We send you to publishers. They check your manuscript. They see that it's good. They publish you. You sell a few copies. Now you're an author.
Okay,
there are some awards.
Okay.
You like to do what?
I'd like to ask a question. So I feel for those that will be, okay, like the tailored assistance, if you're writing a book, the book you're writing, should it be in line with your profession, like what you do?
Everything that you do must be in line with your profession. So let's say you're an artist and you want to come to the US as a successful or talented artist. If you write a book on law, you're just joking. It's just common sense. It has to be in line. I know you're asking these questions of people that might be in doubt, but yes, everything you do. If NBA, Nigeria Bar Association, gives you an award as a supply chain expert, it doesn't make sense. What's supply chain and law? How do they relate? Or you're in aviation and the Institute of, let's say, Medical Association of Nigeria, I don't know what they're called, gives you an award. It doesn't correlate. So every qualification must be in line with the field you're trying to present as, okay? So, but thanks for that. So back to what I was saying, we can guide you to write the book. Let's say newspaper, you need to be featured in newspaper. All you have to do is go and meet reporters from Punch and Tribune and all of those organizations and start sending them articles about supply chain. Thank you. Thank God we have a career to focus on. And then you are now writing opinion papers, you are granting interviews. In 6 months, you see how many newspaper features you already have. So we give people tailored, but the difference is that yours will take longer because you can't get everything in 1 month. It will look suspicious. You have to spread it over a period of time, but they will still be your achievement. So that's like guiding you to, and there are people who already have these things ready-made. All they have to do is go and dig it up from different places. So I hope I've answered that. We need to stop taking questions at some point. So maybe I'll just take 3 more. My spouse and I have a bachelor's in pharmacy and engineering, respectively, with more than 5 years experience. Which of all the options available is more suitable for us? Like I said, there's no one cap fit all. With this one line, I can't really tell. So you might have to come on a consultation with one of our experts to actually see beyond these requirements, these things that you have. What are the other things that you have? So let's say this person that has an engineering degree had a first class, for instance. I might consider them stronger than somebody who has a pharmacy something. So let's say this engineer has been working with Shell for 5 years. You didn't mention where you've been working as a rig, whatever, engineer. And then you want to come to America to help them do something. So we need to have a more detailed session to be able to tell what is more applicable to you. We can't just do it with this one-liner. Send your questions to our DM on Instagram. Yes. Okay, well, thank God the questions are over now. It's been exciting talking to you. Are there any final thoughts? Because I have to go and jump on another call also. Yeah.
All right. I just
Will
want
there
to.
be discount to all join today? Well, no specific discount. You've even heard a lot that you will hear on the consultation
Absolutely.
call, on this call, really. So the call cost $99. The good news is that it counts towards your fees when you decide to move on. So it's not, we're just using it to gatekeep, to make sure we're not talking to just everybody. So we talk to everybody on platforms like this, not individually. So imagine we have to talk to 100 people and just one of them or two come back. So we need to know serious people. There's like a commitment fee that
Right.
counts towards your eventual costs with vesting.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Able to see you. I just want to say thank you for taking our time. Like I told everyone at the beginning of this webinar, is a very busy person, and for him to take our time to having to dish out all of this information at no cost, I think we should start dropping some emojis of appreciate. Let's appreciate our amazing COO. Please, guys, let's drop the emoji. Tell him thank you for coming on board. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. So on behalf of everyone, those that registered and didn't join, saying thank you so much. But before you go, what are your final words before we call
Well,
it?
I'd say that having listened to some of these requirements, if you at some point you would consider moving or being recognized as somebody with extraordinary ability, thankfully, there is no specific field that doesn't qualify for this. The only goal is that you must be extraordinary in that field. So let's say you were a barber. I like to use that example. And then you're the one that cut Tinubu's ear. Let's say all the former presidents or all the African presidents, you're their barber. I'm sure there are no barbers like that, like everywhere you go. So you're an extraordinary barber. So let's say you were a tailor or a fashion designer, but you make clothes for all the fashion houses or all the fashion shows. You're an extraordinary ability tailor. So there is no specific field that has an advantage over the other. We've filed for all kinds of professionals, bankers, lawyers, real estate people. Just mention, as long as if there are 10 of your type in a room, you will stand out. Then that's what qualifies you for this. And having learned these 8 things, you can pay more attention as you go on in life and in your professional journey to get these things. So let's say you're the type that if they call you for any event to come and speak, your default is to decline. Pay more attention to attend this event. If they say you should register for conference, you won't go. Pay more attention to attend these conferences and get the certificate. If they, so make sure you're paying more attention to the things that you used to decline. Let's say they nominate you for an award, you're not interested. Start gathering these things because you might need them in the future. So that will be my final charge to everyone.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Abimbala Amason. We're so grateful to have you for sharing from your wealth of knowledge as a global star, of course. So we hope to have you some other time, and of course on another different topic.
Good to be back.
So thank you so much. And on this note, we're saying a good night from your end because we still have our amazing business senior analyst adversary to come aboard. Thank you so very much. We're grateful. Right. Good night, sir.
Thank you. Good night.
All right, guys, you've heard it all, but that's not all we have for tonight. We have, like I said, our amazing senior business analysts. You guys need to understand something. For every person that we bring to this platform, they are not just people that have been in Nigeria alone. Our business analyst, Miss Bumi, have been to the UK, she's been to Ghana, and she just concluded a global, going global event, Abuja, and we're currently preparing for another country. But fingers crossed, we are not going to expose it now. She'll be the one to let the cat out of the bag. Good evening, Mr. Ufoma. Are you good? Good evening. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. God bless you. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome. If your hands are not too busy, please make welcome my one and only senior business analyst adversary, Miss Bumi Akpado Ikima. Booms. I call her. That was just for the introduction. So let me go for my booms. How are you today?
Okay, first things first, I've missed you, so it's amazing. It's amazing seeing your face.
Yeah, good evening. You look so stressed. What's up? Are you
Hmm?
good?
Global mobility, Jesus.
All right. Okay. So, what would you like to say to the audience? Let them hear you greet them or say something to them before we start our questions.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Okpadoye Oluburi, business and migration analyst at VESI. I think I would have loved to say something intro and all that, but after all my boss has said, I think I will tell you that the best time to start is now. The only point it didn't add, which I would still add, is that policies are changing. Everyone is on TV trying to know if it's Kamala Harris or it's Trump. I can tell you personally, truly, policies are changing. And if global mobility has been your dream, is your dream, or is something you look forward to achieving, the best time to start would have been this morning. So I think that's my start.
All right. Thank you so much. I like that. I was going to say that, but I was waiting to the end, and it's like the spirit is one. The spirit of Vesti is actually one. You guys don't. Okay, so let's get started. So the first question is, what are the common challenges or misconceptions that professionals face during the visa application process as regards this extraordinary, visa? What are the challenges? What are the misconceptions that most of these professionals actually face during their visa application?
Okay, so I think one of the most common, and my boss already talked about it, is understanding your eligibility, understanding which visa type. And I'm glad, it took his time to break it down, which is O1 visa, which is EB1. I also love the very brilliant question of one of our participants asked, that what is the difference between the O1 and the EB1 visa? So understanding the criteria and how you qualify for this visa type is very, very important. Now, after you understand the eligibility, and how else do you understand an eligibility criteria? I always tell people, I've met, quite a number, hundreds of people that say, I read on the USCIS, I read online that this is this. There are a lot of information you don't jam pack together, but you need to know which one is tailored for you. Don't forget that this information is across countries, across, continents, and they have the same criteria, the same requirements, but as it relates to each country. So understanding the eligibility criteria and how it pertains to you. So a lot of people actually misunderstand the eligibility criteria. Challenge number one. Number two is at the point of documentation. Or let me say two things go together. Understanding the legal requirement and inadequate documentation. Some people believe that they can file for these petitions on their own. In fact, they can do the application. I can give you a story of one of the people that reached out to me last week. He was like, he came on a call with us, and after that, he met a friend that told them they could file it. And after they file it, and at this point, this person does not even have a tracking number, so he does not even know if his petition has been filed or not. So you need to understand the reason why a legal attorney, uh, a seasoned legal attorney, I think that is the right word here, is filing your petition, and someone who is well experienced in this field. Also, inadequate documentation. You need to know what document and the number that makes for an overwhelming or adequate evidence. Now, you're going to meet with people that say articles. When I say articles, you can take articles as just one or two articles. Whereas for the particular classification you're going for, it takes about 4 or 5 to prove that you are well known in that field. So inadequate documentation most times also affect this. Then I think the last but not the least for me will be lack of familiarity with process timelines. So a lot of people actually miss, or they underestimate the deadlines. All of this adversity we've been able to put together. The first part you come on, if you say you're interested in this, is what we call clarity call. I say this every country I go, that the best thing the best thing the founders of Vesti created was that clarity call, not a consultation call. A consultation call goes abroad like, okay, this is the criteria for everyone. But a clarity call is tailored to you and the evidences you have. So the timelines that are being provided as tailored to your case and as it goes along the visa type that you're going for. So you know what is expected of you, and the team also knows what is expected of them. So a lot of people not being familiar with process timelines, it also, creates a lot of challenges. Now, let's get to misconceptions. Misconception number one is that any degree is sufficient for a professional visa. You heard when a person asked that, can someone without a BSc, apply for the EB2 NIW visa? And he had to clarify that, of course. Now, if you say you have the extraordinary ability, you can use the extraordinary ability. However, for the EB2 NIW, it requires an advanced degree. So it's not just any degree that is sufficient, an advanced degree. So Vesti has left the point of just getting you to know that, okay, this is what qualifies you for the visa, but this is what also overwhelmingly positions you, for this particular visa type. And I think that has also affected our success rate a lot. What people ask, do you have insiders? No, we don't do that. It's because we do our jobs very, very well. Then another thing people also, misconceive is self-petitioning means no documentation is needed. That you are self-petitioning does not mean that all of the evidences that you have said you have to meet the criteria of a particular visa type is not needed. If you're self-petitioning, it simply means with all of the criteria that the USCIS has listed, or Canada has listed, or maybe the Tech Nation has listed, with this criteria and with these evidences of mine, I believe I qualify to self-petition. And I think that is why the USCIS calls it National Interest Waiver. And another global misconception is that all visa types have the same process and timeline. No, not all visa types. The O1, which I know as one of the fastest special talent or talent-based visas, does not have the same timeline as the EB1, and it does not have the same timeline as the EB2 NIW. Also, you cannot say they have the same timeline. You might be a lot well documented than another person that is still trying to, gather documents together. So these are very different. Then one that I think I would also like to wrap this up with is that legal representation is optional. While I know that you're seasoned in your field, you can never be better than an immigration attorney that has been doing this to file your petition to whichever country, be it Canada, be it US, or be it someone that is well seasoned to submit that very, very robust and qualified application for Tech Nation. So legal representation is never optional, and their support is not something you want to overlook. So you want to make sure that you have not just an immigration attorney, but a seasoned immigration attorney handling your processes. So those are the challenges and those are the major misconceptions. Let me just say a summary.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Bunmi. Honestly, you've shed even more lights on the questions I'm willing to ask, but we need to ask our questions because I'm very sure you have been prepared for this. So now let's get to the next question, which says that how can applicants improve their chances of approval, and what roles does legal support play in the process? I think you already said it. That was your last point, but then I'll need you to shed more light. How can applicants improve their chances of approval, and also what role does legal support, play during this application process? Thank you.
It's more like you gave me, okay, word and opposite. You have mentioned the disease, give me the cure. Okay, I will do that. The first thing you want to know, understand the eligibility requirements of the visa type you're going for. Very, very key and important. If you're going for the O1 visa, understand its requirements as it pertains to your field, please. As it pertains to your classification, as it pertains to your expertise, understand its requirement and criteria. Number 2, please, look out for a seasoned immigration attorney to work with. The support is not underestimated. It's not something you can overlook. That's why Vesti is solving a lot of immigration problems. I cannot tell you the number of kindly help mails we receive every day from people who have either underestimated or overlooked these processes. And they would have to start all over again. Number 3, in the process, please take the advice of your legal attorney. They would help you prepare complete and accurate documentation. They know which of the documentation is needed for each process. We tell people, on our onboarding, even while I'm speaking to people, their legal attorneys, you're paying them for this process, you believe, right? Then listen to the advice of your legal attorney. Then another thing is, while they are working with you to provide strong evidence, please can you also, provide strong evidences. When they're asking for recommendations, you don't go for the weakest in your role. When you know that you can get the CEO of Microsoft, you're not going, for another organization that you think might not count for you. Go for strong evidences of qualification. It matters. This would still go back to your attorneys. They are the only ones that can file a well-organized petitions. There's a difference between a well-organized petition. At Vesti, we call it approval-worthy petitions. Until it is approval-worthy, it shouldn't be submitted. And if you're going for, you need to work with a company that has, day-to-day, in fact, hourly rate updates on USCIS policy changes. This policies change rapidly, very, very rapidly. I can give you instances of petitions being returned just because some people did not fulfill the filing fees that they need to pay. So you need to stay very, very updated. If you're going for the EB2 you know that your proposed endeavor has to be very, very strong and of interest to the USCIS. And you can't just pick any topic. It has to be key to your field. It has to be key to your expertise and what you're very, very good at. That positions you for approval. Now, another part again, I would say it's the role of legal support. They are the only ones who have expertise in this, and they have petition strategies. No case is ever the same. I say this to hundreds and hundreds of our clients. If you say we have done this over the years, yes, the truth is no case is ever the same. That's why they call it special talent. Your talent is very different from the other. You might be in the same field, but your talent is different. So the role of legal support cannot be underestimated. I'm sure if you go through this proper documentation, following submission, and you follow all of their advices, of course, you are well on your way to filing an approval-worthy petition and on your way to global mobility. Hi, Eniola.
So sorry, my network is seizing. I'm so sorry. So please, if you have your questions, please kindly drop them in the comments, in the comment section, please, so we get to attend to all of it. So the last question for this webinar is I don't know if you can hear me. Can anybody hear me, please?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Please
yes.
let me know if you can. Okay, thank you, Ms. Bumi. All right, so the next question, which is the last question, is once approved, right? What are the long-term benefits and opportunities that comes with holding either an O1 visa or an EB1 visa? What are the benefits? Thank you.
The benefits are endless. For the O1 visa, although the validity of the visa is 3 years, and the EB1 visa is for 10 years. You have flexibility to work. You're able to work within the US. Now, while the O1 has no minimum residency requirement, you could go in and come out as you like. At the expiration of the third year, that is even if you have not migrated onto a more permanent pathway, you can always renew the visa every year after that. And then another, aside flexibility of employment, is the ability to live and work in the US. You have it's a visa that covers you and your nuclear family. You and your nuclear family. And now let me clear. You, your spouse, and your children under the age of 21. And yes, and the O1 visa also allows for essential support to come in. What do we mean by essential support? Essential support are people that are very, very essential to your team. For example, if you're a world record holder, Usain Bolt would have a wife, and of course, he has a manager and a trainer. So while his wife will be coming on the O3 visa, his essential support meaning his manager and his trainer could also petition for the O2 visa as essential support, basically proving to the USCIS that they have essential support to this individual and there is nobody else that can do what they aid Usain Bolt to do within his team. Aside that, also is transition to permanent residency. So, on O1 visa, immediately you're approved of your O1 visa. The petition is approved, you received your visa. In fact, most times we advise our clients the number of months it will take them before they start transitioning onto the EB1 visa. We had a client like that who at the start started on O1, and I think a few weeks back got his EB1 visa approval. And another thing about that is there is no, unlike the H1B that has an annual cap, the O1 visa has no limit of that. It allows you to change employers. There is no prevailing, wage benefit. This is the limit you can make. This is not the limit you can make. And the good thing about the EB1 visa is that it provides you a direct path to permanent residency. For the EB1, there is no employer sponsorship required. You can self-petition for yourself. In fact, the O1 visa, you can also petition by registering a business within the US, and that business, profiling you to come under the O1 visa. It is a pathway to citizenship, and your dependents also are recipients of the green card. Your kids have access to schooling and all of the benefits. Also, you have become a global mobility personnel. That those are little. You're free to to pursue entrepreneurship in one of the global capitals of the world. So those are the benefits of an approval from O1 and an EB1 visa.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Booms. Thank you. I want to be sure if anyone can hear me before I move on to the next.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bumi. All right, so Mr. Ufoma is like you came with, let me use Ms. Bumi's term. You came with truck for questions. Truck, so it's fine. We are available, we are capable, don't worry. All right, so Ms. Bumi, let's get to answer Mr. Ufoma's question, which says that what's the difference between the EB1 and EB2? I know we've been saying O1, EB1, O1, EB1. So I think it would like to know more about the difference between the EB1 and EB2.
Okay, so great question. The O1, the EB1 and the EB2 NRW. Difference number one, EB1 employment-based category 1, EB2 employment-based category 2. While the EB1 has no academic requirement, as my CEO earlier said, the EB2 NRW requires that you have an advanced degree. That's another difference. Number two is that the EB1, while the EB1 visa also grants you, it's a lot more based on your extraordinary ability, the talents that you possess for this criteria. The EB2 NIW is specific on the kind of impact you're bringing into the US. Don't forget that we said you need a proposed endeavor. You need a proposed endeavor. Okay, this is what I'm coming into the US to do, and this is how I am hoping to achieve it. So the only difference between them would be the academic requirement, basically. The benefits are same. You can work, you can switch employers, and all of that. You can also self-petition, but the academic requirement, what the EB1 has no academic requirement, the EB2 NIW as a requirement of an advanced degree.
All right, thank you so very much, Miss Bumi, and I hope there is no more questions because I don't see I'm not getting more questions. Okay, Mr. Ufoma, to confirm, your question is well answered. Thank you. The thumbs up says a lot. Thank you so much. All right, thank you so much, Miss Bumi. I really want to appreciate you for creating time to be part of this webinar. I can understand how busy you are because, guys, for every email, if you're not getting response, shit or what. But no jokes. That was by the way. But she's a very, very busy person. I mean, we're expanding Festi, and she has a lot on her table. So for her to be here tonight means that she wants you to make use of that talent and that the awards, the books, all of the requirements that you feel like, oh, it's not needed, you sort of threw aside. My dears, please know that it is needed at this time. And like she said, policies are changing. The best time to start is now. I mean, like now, because policies are changing. She could affirm to what I want to say. As of 2 years ago, all of these policies were not like this, right? So it's like, in fact, the policies are changing every 2 months or every 3 months. Yes, I must say that. So please, guys, the best time to start is now. So Olivet is asking a question, Ms. Bumi. Please, how can I get started for the processing? That will be the last word she will be saying to everyone. Then Mr. Uchenna Uwamadim says that on an average, how long does it take to complete the process? Assuming a candidate meets all of the requirements. I like that. I like the clause. If you should meet all of the requirements, for how long or how long do you think it takes to complete the process? I think the CEO mentioned something like that, but Ms. Bumi would take it again. So the mic is yours.
Thank you. First question, where do you start? Whatever your visa type, the best way to start is to book a clarity call. Now, I've seen a lot of qualified. I just want to pay. At best, we like the enthusiasm. We're ready, but we also want to know what we are dealing with. So we'd like to get to meet with you. Okay, this is how you qualify. You belong to STEM, you belong to arts, media, and all that. Yes, those are your fields. But you as a talent, what do you do? So it helps us to have an overview of what you've done over the years. The first thing to do is to book a clarity call as it aligns to your visa type. I've posted the links on there. Do well to book a clarity call. If you have an issue paying maybe in dollars, please send a mail to talentvisa@bvesti, or you can send a mail to me, bumi@bvesti.com, BUNMI, bumi@bvesti.com, and I will do well to get you alternative modes of payment so you can get started. Now, another very brilliant question I love is, aside Mr. Olivet, is Mr. Uchenna's question. Assuming a client meets all the requirements, the best way is still, in fact, we are much more eager to work with you than you are eager to work with us. You already meet the requirements. All you need to do is book a call. Immediately after your call, we get started with the process. Provided, of course, you already meet the requirements, and immediately you get started with the process. I usually tell people the only timeline I am unable to provide you is how long it takes you to gather your documents together. You have a lot of people, like the CEO earlier mentioned, they are well qualified, overwhelmingly, in fact, but putting together this, requirements based on their very busy schedules, and lives, of course, might differ. The fastest, I think, recommendation I've ever seen, I mentioned, is in 24 hours. And I'm sure the man has been preparing. So at the time we asked, he just provided. And there are people that it will take 4 months, 2 months, 3 months to even provide, profiles for recommendation or the recommendation drafts before they start working on them. Then immediately after your final document is ready, it takes a stipulated number of time, which would also be discussed on the clerical or on onboarding with your assigned case officer. At Vesti, we don't leave you alone. You are assigned to a case officer once you kickstart the process with us. Your assigned case officer will tell you immediately after the final document is received, before petition is drafted, you meet all of the terms. Of course, they tell you the stipulated time it takes to draft a worthy petition, which is sent back to you as the fourth or fifth eye to look at the petition. Once you give it a go-ahead, it is submitted and we look forward to response. Now, there is something we call premium processing, which gives you, your response within 2 weeks of submission. And there is the standard regular processing, which gets people, their response in within 3 to 9 months, dependent on the visa type that you are filing for. So that's the timeline I'm able to discuss on the call at the moment.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bumi. So if you know this session has really been impactful and met your expectation, please drop your emojis. Let's say thank you to Ms. Bumi for having to take a time to join us. And I must say this has to be the longest webinar so far, right? Am I correct? The longest webinar, like this is almost 7:30. So it shows that, it shows that we really, really know what we want and why we're here. So on this note, I just want to say that I hope that you all took advantage of this amazing time, because you don't come by them easily, trust me. And so please, the best time, again, I'll repeat and again, is now, because policies are changing. So on this note, I'm going to say a very big thank you to everyone that joined. I might not be able to call names, but at Vesti, we like to make everyone feel so important, because we all are important. So I'd like to say thank you to Titi Ade, thank you to Miss Olubumi Okpajoyin, thank you to Joy Essien, thank you to Boniface for joining. Thank you to Mr. Kolade Adebayo, thank you to Oye, thank you to Sandra, thank you to Uchenna, thank you to Olivette, thank you to Ufoma Ofogba. And thank you to everybody that came. I hope I'm able to mention everyone. And if I didn't get to mention your name, I'm sorry, it's not intentional. I just want to make sure that everyone gets back to what they are doing before, they jump on this webinar. So thank you so much. Please do not forget, it was worth it. Thank you, Olivette. I love this feedback. Yes, it has to worth it. Thank you so much. This is really inspiring. Thank you, guys. Oh, thank you, Uchenna. You love my energy. Thank you, crew. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. So please, I want to say, if you're here to follow us on all of our social media, guys, you're missing, because a whole lot of gems. Let me use the spiritual realm. Rema, they are dropping on our page. And I wouldn't want you to miss out on this. So please do well to follow us on all of our social media handle. From Instagram, it's Vesti Official, Twitter, Vesti Official, LinkedIn, Vesti. And please do well to follow our CEO and also CEO, Olusola Amuson Abimbola Amuson. Thank you so very much. On this note, I wish you all a beautiful night rest and do well to patronize Vesti. All right. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right. Good so night. I want to invite everyone. We will be having a closed door meet and greet with the CEO later this month. Yes, probably 30th of this month. There's a time for you to also come meet him. We have the 1.0, and I think we were there that night till about 8 p.m. before
9 p.m.
to join another meeting. Now he wants to have a 2.0 before he leaves. A lot of people thought he left. Yes, he had to attend to some things and he's back. So we would like to have him on the 30th. The registration will be sent to everyone shortly. Do well to register. It's going to be closed door actually. It's a closed door meet and greet with him. And you get to have tailored questions and tailored responses and also assurances of some sort about this process. So please look forward to it. We'll be reaching out to everyone. Thank you so much, Annie. Hi, Annie. Hi, Annie. Hi, Annie. Hi, everyone.